You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Eternal Tournament Series, Round 7 this week. We are in Season 1, Week 5. I am Gabe, also known as Calimdir, and here in the booth with me is Sir Rhino. We're going to break down this final round for you.
Yeah, this is it. The seventh and final round. Players playing for their last chance to make it into the top 8. And we've got winning in for TonyGeeeee on Big Combre, who's up against Mr.Bombito on Praxis midrange. So, hey, time is alive and thriving, right? Combre kind of making its presence felt. We saw it in the last round, and we're seeing it here. Martial Ironthorns, Reality Wardens, Mystic Ascendants, Behemoths, just big bodies backed up by Protect. Although this one's not splashing for Shadow, just going straight Combre variant here. Because, it turns out playing Valkyrie Enforcer's pretty good without having to find things like Slay. And on the other end, Praxis. We haven't seen much of that lately.
Yeah, Praxis kind of fell by the wayside, or rather fell out of favor, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't really get too much worse. It's just that people shifted to a lot of flying evasive threats, and
Mm-hmm.
Unseen Commando really did a number on it. But it's still the same deck it was, and it did get a couple cool new tools in cards like World Bearer Behemoth or even Jack in some
Oh,
versions.
yeah.
Um,
I love Jack, but we're not going to see him in this version of Praxis. Praxis has its pick of the litter with great 5-drops. All 4 Shadow Glass Mage in the sideboard. And this is a Praxis list ready for these removal piles. We talked about how Dawnwalker is a good response to those decks. 4 of it here. This is mainly based in time. This Praxis deck, we see the Talir's favorite Temple Scribe kind of go wide is the initial plan with Xenon Obelisk to turn all these filler units to get in the way of weapons and become threats eventually. But you still have your top end of, Titan, Fire Maul, Behemoth. Behemoth without Mystic Ascendant isn't quite as insane, but it's still a huge overwhelm unit that when it attacks gives you more power, thins your deck, and ramps you towards Obelisk. So can still do a lot of work. I also like that 2 of Flamestoker in the main deck, really bringing the tech for these removal pile decks.
yeah, so typically this is a matchup that we would say that favors Praxis. However, both of these decks are, or rather, the Praxis deck is really tuned to face the current metagame. A lot of these Justice Shadow decks, a lot of Slays and things like that. Whereas
Yeah.
this Combre deck is just doing its Combre thing. Didn't
Yeah.
really, yeah, not really missing anything here. And so I think that might give Combre a window to take, at least have an advantage in game 1.
Yeah, something like Reality Warden, just the presence of that card in this matchup can, if that shows up, Praxis can really struggle dealing with that card. It does now have World Bear Behemoth as a Xenon initiation target to eat it, and the big thing here when you get these time mid range mirrors, if one side has Obelisk and the other doesn't, that can go a long way. So Praxis is probably a dog in this matchup, but I don't think it's a huge dog on average. There are going to be
Yeah.
draws though, one way or another, that favor these players. Like Flamestoker, this is not where you want this card when your opponent's playing 7/7s and 6/7s all over the place, and Flamestoker just simply does nothing here.
Yeah, Flamestoker is definitely not at its best in this matchup. Uh, the other thing is World Bear Behemoth is pretty good in both decks. Like the Combre deck normally has things like Harsh Rule or whatever it used to, but
Mhm.
like usually the Praxis deck ends up winning because it doesn't have this big dip in power around 5, 6, 7. But with the addition of Reality Wardens, World Bear Behemoths, Combre doesn't have that weakness as much here against Praxis,
And
and
it
this
looks like
Praxis deck doesn't have Carnosaur, so
Yeah, and looks like this match is underway. And yeah, the noble thing with Praxis mid range, this is mid range. This is not ramping. It's more deliberately flooding the board, right? Talir's favorite Temple Scribe, Amber Acolyte, it's early game rather than like Power Stone to try and launch to the mid game. It is trying to leverage these units into threats with Obelisk and then just have big hammers on the top end. And Bombito hasn't drawn any of that filler and instead just drawn all the hammers. Meanwhile, TonyGeeeee doesn't have much going on right now either, though. No awakened students or anything like that. So both players just sort of waiting this out, but TonyGeee's going to curve out, and Bombito might struggle to, although Waystone off the top will help him there.
Yeah, so the first Titan comes out on Bombito's side, I think, unless he elects to play this Obelisk or Firemaw, right?
Yep.
But yeah, TonyGeeeee, like both players are gonna have a lot of powerful threats once the power comes down. And Sandstorm Titan, a great answer to Firemaw. I mean, there's just no way for Bombito to get
Yeah.
out of this situation without 2-for-1ing himself currently.
Well, he can
And
play the Obelisk and offer the trade.
that's true.
But he opts to just get a Titan of his own down, try and keep threats on the board, and then probably again, Obelisk is kind of the great here. Purify you could have used to like just let your Firemaw take the skies. It just doesn't matter when you were gonna play a Titan in your own at some point.
Yeah, Obelisk is very, like you said, very good in these time mirrors, and may just be what gives Mr. Bombito the edge in this matchup here.
Yeah, he will essentially always have the bigger units. The thing is, TonyGeeeee has the draw engine in Mystic Ascendant. That's kind of the edge here. It's Ascendant and Suroth on one end and Obelisk on the other. And which player leverages that advantage more is going to be the story in all of these matches.
Yeah, if the game gets taken over at about 6 or 7 power, Mr. Bombito will be ahead. If the game gets taken over at about 8, 9, 10 power, 11 power, TonyGeeeee will be ahead. So we'll see how long TonyGeeeee can hold out against all these giant units that are going to be coming his way.
Yeah. Like Bombito has the Purify to answer the draw engine of Mystic Ascendant. The thing is, TonyGeeeee has Ascendant, Undepleted Power, and Protected Hand. So he is ready to protect that Ascendant, except from a Zenith initiation that may show up from Bombito. That's the only thing, but he can't really play around that anyways.
Yeah, and because Mr. Bombito hasn't been able to curve out as much as he wanted to, hasn't been able to get this Obelisk out, because that's the thing. Obelisk is a pretty low tempo card, and because of the just amount of blockers that TonyGeeeee has, there hasn't been super great attacks. Had this Obelisk been able to come down maybe earlier, then Bombito could have been pushing through these blockers, but right now there's just too many good double blocks available. He's going to try and get some value here, though.
Yeah, this will get another power out of his deck, get closer to getting that Obelisk to 8, and it looks like, yeah, like you said, TonyGeeeee has some okay blocks here. He'll trade up some units, but the pair of 7/8s meant one of them was going to get through unless TonyGeeeee wanted to give up his Mystic Ascendant.
Yeah. He's got another Sandstorm Titan winning in the wings, though, and then this Mystic Ascendant is going to get out of control very quickly.
Bombito also hit Undepleted Power off of this swing, so now has the option of using Purify. Also did not hit a fire source, so these Heart of the Vaults are still locked away until he finds one of those.
Well, he's
so
got the Amber Acolyte, which will unlock that for him.
Sure, eventually. He won't be able to play like Acolyte plus Heart of the Vault. So now he's got to decide, does he use Purify to finish off an Owl? Does he use it on the Ascendant? Instead, just holds it up and waits for, I don't know. I don't think TonyGeeee's ever not going to have Protect up.
Yeah, I think TonyGeeeee is going to just play the rest of the game with 1 power available for this Mystic Ascendant. And Mr. Bombito really needs to start pressing the unit advantage that he has, or at least trading units. But the window's kind of passed. Now that this Mystic Ascendant is an 8/8, Praxis has already kind of lost its advantage. We're already heading into the Seraph Mystic Ascendant territory, or we're deep in it even.
Yeah, this is Praxis's classic problem where it just has problems breaking board stalls once it gets into it against other big decks, right? You mentioned how some of these removal pile style decks hurt Praxis, but really the specter that hangs over Praxis and keeps it in check is a card like Vara, right? Where it's just this huge deadly unit that brings something else back, and if you don't remove it right away or use Purify, it's going to keep just out grinding you. And Mystic Ascendant kind of fills a similar role once it gets out of Zenith initiation range, and that's what we're seeing here. Now just TonyGeeeee is slowly but surely going to build up an advantage. Maybe these Heart of the Vaults can somehow get Bombito back in, but with TonyGeeeee at a healthy 18, it's going to be hard to find a spot to alpha.
I think a Zenith initiation would go a long way towards putting Mr. Bombito back into this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could either try and leverage like a value Dawnwalker that's killing over and over, but it's not going to kill Ascendant anymore now that it's a 10/10. You'll have to combine it with your Purifies and Hearts of the Vaults to hopefully get the job done. Here we see TonyGeeeee pull the trigger on this Vanquish, figuring it's not going to get much better than killing a Silenced World Bear Behemoth. Bombito can, I don't know, play out Heart of the Vault and see what it churns up.
Yeah, try and kill that awakened student.
Yeah, that could be just at least get a body off the board.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to waste a protect on awakened student if he's got to keep up Mystic Ascendant. So
Instead, trying to
okay.
go for like a combo kill on the Seraph, which is threatening to start activating soon. Ooh,
Ooh.
finds the free initiation.
Wow, and that's pretty good because can clean up Seraph there.
Yeah, it's not going to deal with the Ascendant, but now you can kind of go with the plan of what if I deal with everything around the Ascendant, right?
Right, and then at that point, sure, they have a huge unit, but I can trump block it, and I'll just swing around it for lethal anyway.
Yeah, and that's what we see here. Get that killer Dawnwalker going. That overwhelms over the Seraph, takes TonyGeeeee down to 14. And now it's just kind of this game of try and get around the one biggest thing and do enough damage because
okay. So there's a really interesting path here that Mr.Bombito could take, which is just Heart of the Vault, face, and Dawnwalker becomes a burn spell, and you just start trying to just get in damage to overwhelm, never even attack.
Yeah,
it's definitely a real strategy here.
Yeah, I would not be shocked to see Heart of the Vault go face here, and that is the play. The other sweet thing here, okay, you get a free friendly wisp. Why not? You can play that out. And you also have Torch Up, which can go face, but also can protect your Dawnwalker from silence.
Yeah. Very crucial, potentially. Although, with the Awakened students getting bigger, your damage from Dawnwalker goes down, because once you kill the Valkyrie Enforcer, you're just not getting that much damage with Killer, because, you do have to attack through the units.
Yeah. Although if you keep working at the Flyers and then they only have one Sandstorm Titan left and you like suicide yours, you have a Crimson Fire Maul looking around. I don't think you go for that plan, even though you have the friendly wisp to pair with it. But yeah, Bombito's got his way to get through this stall, which is repeated killer Dawnwalker. And now TonyGeeeee recognizes I might have to find a way to turn around this pressure. Ooh, Praxis displaced.
I think that might be just held onto until it's going to take out okay, see, I think I like going for your line where you deal with the Flyers and then eventually maybe Praxis Displacer, the Sandstorm Titan, for lethal or something like that. But you do have your own Titan anyway, so it's a very difficult road.
Well, you can purify your own Titan and they can't even like protect that. But your opponent does have a protect, so you can't really rely on messing with them too much. But here we go. TonyGeeee's down to 10. This Dawnwalker continues its rampage. And now it's up to being a 7-4 thanks to finding more power for this obelisk.
Yeah, and this is the thing about Comrades. They don't win particularly fast. They will win. They will find their Martial Ironthorn or whatever it is that they need, and they'll just clear your board and attack all in one turn. But it's going to take them a while.
Yeah, TonyGeeeee only has 2 Martial Ironthorns. So we were talking about how Praxis can't break board stalls. This Comrade deck can't really do it either. You just assume you eventually find it with Mystic Ascendant. But instead, this killer Dawnwalker is the real value engine of this game because TonyGeeee's at 12 health and this overwhelm adds up.
Yeah, absolutely. He can even, I mean, there's potentially some way that he gets this protect out of the hand. TonyGeeeee doesn't have another one, and then he can start doing
all
things
of
with Praxis Displacer.
All of these units can attack. You have a Torch and a Displacer. Yeah, okay. You can Temple Scribe first. And find and obliterate. So now you can like use Dawnwalker to kill something. Just maybe torch away a blocker to see if they blink and use the protect and then try and clear the way with obliterate one of these turns. Like you have so many ways to get them to use protect now between Displacer, Torch, Purify. That obliterate is a huge chunk of damage here.
Yeah, and we're starting to get wide enough that the damage, the unblocked damage is relevant because these units are just so big at this point.
Oh yeah, just torch the face. Why not? Sure.
Yeah, I like it.
Like I'm okay with this torch going for a unit or at face, and there we go.
Wow. Yeah, there goes
protect comes out. Now you just obliterate face to go to 6. I mean, you have 2 or 3 extra attackers of them. You just have lethal here. Like,
yep. Just use Dawnwalker on. Use Dawnwalker on their smallest blocker, and then there you go.
Yeah, Dawnwalker a thing, obliterate a thing, get in there, and you're golden. Like this is. I mean, Bombito doesn't know if they have a second protect. There is that chance, so I think that's what he's thinking about right now. Like, how do I navigate around the idea of them having a second one?
I think you can test for it with the Dawn Walker.
Yeah, that's true. Like they would either have to have a Desert Marshal or Protect in response to Dawn Walker.
Yeah, and at that point, then you're just, you don't have it. But what else can you do?
Yeah, he's hovering over things, opts to go for the 4/4 owl, no pause in response to the killer. So they got nothing. And okay, yeah,
Quick
you
math.
don't have the Temple Scribe to swing with, but you can swing with
Oh, wait.
everything else. Don't let him know
Uh,
about the obliterate.
no, I think he needed to. I think he's one off.
Might be like,
Yeah, I
I
think he
didn't
needed
do
to hit
all
the
of the
Valkyrie
math
Enforcer.
exactly.
Yeah, he needed to hit the Valkyrie Enforcer with the Dawn Walker.
Oh, okay. Yeah, get one extra overwhelm damage.
Yeah, I mean, but now TonyGeeeee doesn't really have blockers. I don't think too much.
Yeah, I think he'll be able to cobble together lethal over these next 2 turns if he somehow doesn't get it here. No, he still gets a point and obliterate at their face. Like this, he has 2 units getting through.
Oh. I just thought TonyGeeeee had a full front row. My
No,
mistake.
he lost the unit because of the Dawnwalker. So
Right.
there are a lot of ways to find lethal here. I don't think comes the obliterate. So there we go. We were talking about how we thought Praxis couldn't break the board solid. Turns out Combray was the one that couldn't do it, and the reach
Yeah.
from Praxis added up to be enough in the end.
Yeah, I think the obelisk is really what did it there. Because without the obelisk, the Dawn Walker wouldn't have done anything either.
Well, yeah, and they only had 2 Xena initiations in their list, so it was kind of a race to see who found Xena initiation plus Dawnwalker or Marshall Ironthorn, right?
Yep.
One way or the other was going to break the stall, and it turns out Bombito found. Yeah, that Dawnwalker answered the Seraph right before it started getting going.
Yep.
Now we get into the sideboards, and there's a powerful new tool that these time decks have access to, and that's 4 Talir's Intervention and Bombito's sideboard, which can just be a fast speed silence. Do you think that comes in here?
Well, I'm not as big a fan of that card as I know you are, but in this matchup, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's not answering a unit. It's just blanking its text box. It also has the ability to return an Amber Acolyte or a Sandstorm Titan or a Heart of the Vault to your hand, but that's pretty minor. I don't know in the battle of playing big things, it's exactly what you want. Like I would bring in the 2 Purifies before any number of Talir's Intervention if you really just want to. Although, does the 3 damage from Purify really matter in this matchup?
Yeah. Yeah, I like Talir's Invention over Purify potentially. I mean, okay, maybe not versus Awakened Student and some other things like that, but just having the cheaper spell sometimes is really good. I don't like Scorpion Wasp, I don't like Shatterglass Mage, and I don't really like Soulfire Drake either. That's the biggest thing for me is that there just isn't much else that I like. And I really don't like Flamestoker, so
yeah, I want to take out the Flamestokers, and almost anything you bring in is better than it. But I agree that I think I'd pick Purify out of the maybe the Talir's Intervention. We'll see
here
what
comes
damage.
Yeah, I think I would bring in Talir's Intervention over Purify just as to split it up a little bit.
Sure.
So yeah, players are in game.
Then on the side of Combray, you have an extra Awakened Student you could bring in. They have the full Vodacombo package. Like
yeah, that I was going to ask you about that. Do you think this matchup is slow enough for Vodacon?
That last game was. It's not always going to be the case, but your opponent is trying to they have early plays, but they're not early threats until Obelisk comes out. So in that sense, I do like Vodacon. Now Vodacon is weak to silence, and we were just talking about how your opponent could be bringing extra silences. But I like overwhelming their silence targets. Like they see the appeal of that. So I like the Vodacon package here. It could end up being slow, and here we see Bombito, Mulligan, and Flamestoker still in.
Wow. Yeah, I mean,
an oversight.
Yeah, I don't like Flamestoker like we said. I definitely think it should have come out. Vodacon, the problem I have with Vodacon is just like, all right, turn 4 Titan, turn 5 Behemoth, kill you or whatever, and you don't even get to. But I mean, Combray's running those cards too, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the idea of Vodacon is nice, but at the end of the day, what are you bringing in for it? What's coming out? You're inevitably going to make your deck slower. Is that tolerable? Here, Bombito needs some time sources because right now he can't cast anything.
Needs some power, really, just at all.
He mulled away a hand with plenty of power and mulled into a hand with 2 fire sigils. And hey, Amber Acolyte's a help, but I think it's going to be too little too late, staring down already a Sandstorm Titan and a World Bearer Behemoth.
Yeah, so remember when I said I was worried about Praxis going Sandstorm Titan World Bearer Behemoth? Well,
2 can play at that game.
yeah.
Bombito's down to 9. Another huge threat in reality
Yeah,
when it comes
I
down.
think it's going to be over in just a second. Basically has to play Temple Scribe. I mean, nothing else. I guess I can play Sandstorm Titan.
Temple Scribe hit undepleted power, play Dawnwalker as a chump blocker.
I would have played Titan here, I think.
Titan, yeah, lets you bounce block off something too. I think
Dawnwalker
is not the play. I think you get greedy with Temple Scribe or you hedge with Titan and instead
Dawnwalker is not a winning play when you're at 2 time sources.
Yeah, and Dawnwalker's never coming back anyways. But this game, it didn't really matter what line Bombito took. TonyGeeeee just played a 10-10 and drew 2 cards.
Yeah.
Praxis is known for some things. It is not known for comebacks. That's not what it does.
No, sir.
It can win from parity. It can win when it's ahead. When it's behind, forget about it.
Yep. And there's that Purify, taking out that pesky Temple Scribe, clearing the way for TonyGeeeee to take game 2. Never mind. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't work anyway, because it's his own unit.
Yep. And in comes death swiftly, and we're going to move on to game number 3.
Yeah, so we'll see if Mr.Bombito decides that Flamestoker should come out or not.
I decided long ago that it should not be in.
Yeah, I decided when I saw it.
Maybe he just shipped back the list or clicked the wrong one. I'm not sure. Yeah, a card that makes a 5/5 every turn against a deck that's playing 7/7.
Hey, maybe you just make enough. Maybe they forget to block.
It is better with Obelisk. I'm not used to playing it in a deck with Obelisk all the time. So there is that. I just feel like there's 6 drop with no medium board impact. It does apply pressure, and it survives Harsh Rule, but it doesn't matter against a Combray deck that doesn't play Harsh.
Yeah, I think especially when a deck that is playing World Bearer Behemoth, a card that blocks Infernuses, instead of Harsh Rule, a card that doesn't interact with Infernuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some cool things you can do with Flamestoker in this matchup. I just don't think that merits an inclusion in this matchup, right? Like, they have to block this 5/5 every turn. Now it upgrades my torches. Now it upgrades my 2 damage from Heart of the Vault because now they have to block this
killer.
Yeah, so there's cool things. I don't know.
There's better cards.
Yeah, I just don't know if those are coming up enough for it to.
All right, but it looks like the players are in game 3. Let's check out what's going on over there.
Vodacon.
Yeah, TonyGeeeee did bring in Vodacon. He's got Find the Way as well, so his power is looking pretty good. Meanwhile, Mr.Bombito, just 2 power, one of it a Monument. This is not looking great. Torch also not really very good in this matchup. That's another card that often gets taken out versus Combray.
Yeah, but we're going through Bombito's sideboard and we're like, well, that's not very good. That's not very good. And that's kind of the deal with Praxis versus Combray, where Combray just has slightly bigger stuff. Praxis is trying to be aggressive and have some reach. And we saw in game 1 it had just enough. Game 2 it certainly stumbled, and we'll see what happens in game 3. I don't know if this is. I don't think Bombito has mulled this yet, or the game would be underway, I think. So
I think he's waiting to redraw. The more I think about it, like traditionally I always felt Praxis was favored, and I still kind of feel like Praxis is favored, but that was before both decks had access to World Bearer Behemoth. Like a lot of the threats were Praxis only, whereas now World Bearer Behemoth is just about as good as anything Praxis can do, and Combray has access to that as well.
So here we see Bombito did mull that hand away and got something much better. A friendly wisp with some large units, and Scout sees that behemoth that we were talking about, keeps that on top, and will probably just deploy out this monument in the meantime on like turn 3 or something.
Yeah, friendly wisp is great here in this matchup where you plan to grind. And if they, they burn a silence or something on that, that's probably worth it. I mean, you do have I guess practice, you're not as concerned about your text box as much as you are on the Calimdir side. I mean, Titan's endurance is relevant, but for the most part, units aren't going to be flying when there's 8 Titans. You don't have any Mystic Ascendants, so your behemoths, they get some value, but it's not that important. Mostly it's a 6/7.
A little confused why Bombito didn't play his depleted Seed of Impulse that turn. Now, he
Yeah.
may not actually curve out into his World Bear Behemoth, even though he gets to draw 2 cards here. He likely will.
There's Flamestoker.
No, he's not going to. So he's not going to be able to play World Bear Behemoth this turn. That's a pretty big misplay, not playing Seed of Impulse when on the turn they played Friendly Wisp. Now you don't get to play Behemoth here. You have to play
Scribe
Firemaw
Friendly Wisp or something.
Yeah, like, and you still have this Monument in hand. You have 2 depleted power. So this is
and now TonyGeeeee gets to attack and get 1 power off of this World Bear Behemoth, which means that when next turn, even if Mr.Bombito can deal with it, TonyGeeeee is still going to get that trigger for 2 power with potentially an Iron Thorn on the board, which could just be game ending.
Power sequencing matters, folks, and we're seeing it at work here. As that one little misplay is having a huge effect on the rest of this game. As TonyGeeee's up to 9 power now.
Losing Titan here would be pretty bad for Mr.Bombito.
Yeah, but you might still do it. Let's see, you triple block World Bear Behemoth, right? I mean, you're getting a Behemoth off the board that is going to ramp for 3 next turn. You got to do it at 6 because Iron Thorn's in play, and then Iron Thorn just ulties you.
Wait, hold on. Keep the.
He's playing around Stand Together.
Oh yeah,
He decides that's worth doing.
Yeah,
I think
that's
fine
fair. Because you only have 6 attack on the World Bear. Can't kill Titan and anything else.
Yeah, I think that's fine playing around. The risk is worth it because if they have Stand Together there, you're not winning the game.
Yep.
Now Bombito can play a thing, probably Heart of the Vault.
Yeah, I think you Heart of the Vault and try and high roll a torch or something, because there's just
kill. And that means you're going to target Iron Thorn, right? Not Seraph.
I don't know.
Yeah, like Seraph can keep making big value units. Iron Thorn can wipe your whole board.
Yep. So
which is more important?
I think the argument here is that you potentially had more turns to deal with Iron Thorn, but this is going to be over pretty quick, I think, with the combination of Vodacon and Iron Thorn.
Yeah, this could get ugly, although is only looks like no power was hit off the Destinied Seek power. But TonyGeeeee is also up to 13 power, so any power is a board wipe here.
Yep.
And that will
any undepleted power.
Yeah. Although if you draw undepleted power, it might find you
depleted power.
Or whatever. Or if you draw depleted power, this is a bad spot for Praxis. Let's go with
what we're trying to say is Vodacon Temple Speaker doesn't play around.
Yeah. Bombito found his way out of a board stall before, but that was because the board stall didn't involve a Martial, Iron Thorn, and Vodacon on the other side.
Yeah, and on his side there weren't 1/1s. It was an obelisk and many Titans and hearts and dinosaurs.
The clock he's facing this time around is a bit more dire than what we saw pre. So yeah, these Flamesoakers are looking ugly.
Right on
it's
time.
not like anything else is getting you out of this mess. And there it is, undepleted power. Martial Iron Thorn is free to wipe this board if he so desires. And
hey, at least the Flamesoaker
killing your opponent
will still be around next turn, right?
Not quite.
Are you sure?
It'll be alive in another dimension.
Okay. And that's going to be TonyGeeeee, and I think it's going to put TonyGeeeee in the top 8 with this 2-1 victory over Mr.Bombito in round 7.
That locks up a 6-1 finish for TonyGeeeee, so he is definitely in the top 8. Congrats to TonyGeeeee riding Calimdir to the top 8. So we'll be seeing him later on in this tournament, I'm sure. And of course, hats off to his opponent. Good showing there as well, Mr.Bombito, repping Praxis to. And we'll see if there's any other matches outstanding that we can duck in on. And it turns out that was the last match. So we're going to take a break here, figure out all the tiebreaker goodies, and get back with the top 8 of this tournament.